So 2 Samuel chapter 13, the unintended consequences or side effects of sin can be severe. So a good lesson for us to realize that sometimes if we commit sin, there are unintended consequences we don't think about. There's the literal consequence of what we've done. Then there's unintended consequence of what we've done and how it affects the people around us. That can cause even more problems. So that's why it's best just not to get into sin in the first place. So Amnon desires Tamar, his sister, and forces her. He is slain by Absalom's command. Absalom flees to Geshur. So there's going to be some family problems that start to rise in David's house, basically. Verse 1, and it came to pass after this that Absalom, the son of David, had a fair sister, whose name was Tamar. And Amnon, the son of David, loved her. So we have Absalom, who's a son of David. Absalom has a sister, Tamar. She's a daughter as well of David. And they have a stepbrother named Amnon. So they have same fathers, but different mothers, basically, is what we have in here. And Amnon, verse 2, and Amnon was so vexed that he fell sick for his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin. And Amnon thought it hard for him to do anything to her. So what they're telling us in this story in verse 2 is that Amnon ended up becoming really infatuated and lustful against his stepsister, basically, Tamar. And she was a virgin. She was doing everything fine, no problems for her. But he got this idea in his mind that he fixated on her, and she was beautiful, and he just had to have her, and he couldn't do anything without her, and everything had to be about her. And he went crazy, mentally focusing on her, this unhealthy obsession with his sister. And really, it's not necessarily an unhealthy obsession with his sister, but an unhealthy obsession with how he feels about his sister. This ends bad. And we see this in movies and TVs all the time. It's not a good thing. Not a good thing. Verse 3, but Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shimeah, David's brother. So Jonadab's a cousin, basically. And Jonadab was a very subtle man. So he's a sneaky guy, and he's pretty observant with what's going on around him and subtle in how he does things. He's not a bold, come out and speak his mind kind of thing in front of people. He kind of works behind the scenes doing things. Verse 4, and he said unto him, why art thou, being the king's son, lean from day to day? Wilt thou not tell me? And Amnon said unto him, I love Tamar, my brother, Absalom's sister. So Jonadab realized there's something up with Amnon. He's kind of gone a little crazy. What is going on? Why is he acting this way? What's happening? So he's asking him about this, and Amnon says, dude, I got to have Tamar. I'm obsessed with her, basically. Verse 5, and Jonadab said unto him, lay thee down on thy bed, and make thyself sick. And when thy father cometh to see thee, say unto him, I pray thee, let my sister Tamar come, and give me meat, and dress the meat in my sight, that I may see it and eat it at her hand. So Jonadab, being the sneaky guy he is, he says, well, look, here's what you need to do. Is you're going to pretend you're sick. Your dad's going to come in to check on you, and you're going to say, oh, I'm so sick. Oh, hey, will you have my sister Tamar come in to help me? It's not uncommon for women of a family to take care of the sick. So, and she's going to come in, and he's going to say, have her prepare meat for me. So dress it. So she's preparing it, probably cutting it up, doing things, cooking it in front of him, basically. And then she's going to help him eat it, basically, because he's so sick. This is the sneaky plan that Jonadab is telling Amnon. Now, verse 6, so Amnon lay down and made himself sick. And when the king was come to see him, Amnon said unto the king, I pray thee, let Tamar my sister come, and make me a couple of cakes in my sight, that I may eat at her hands. Now remember, meat doesn't necessarily mean animal meats. Meat also means grain. Okay, the amount of protein that used to be contained in grain back then was quite a bit. We, in the 1800s, the second half of the 1800s, started to hybridize grains basically to get rid of the protein in it. There's a molecular protein in wheat called gluten, and that's what makes bread sticky and soft and fluffy, basically. But the protein that you would get from bread that would also be similar to protein in like beans and tofus and animal meats, that kind of a protein has been hybridized out of wheat, basically. So you have to go get an einkorn flour or a spelt or a kamut type flour, more original flours, to get that kind of grain again. So just realize that even the whole idea, if you remember, you go back into the law of Moses, back in Leviticus, the meat offering was actually an offering of grain, not animal meat, basically. So anyways, that's a little bit of side note there, sorry. So verse 6, he basically asked his dad to do this. And so verse 7, then David sent home to Tamar, saying, go now to thy brother Amnon's house and dress him meat. Verse 8, so Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house, and he was laid down, and she took flour and kneaded it and made cakes in his sight and did bake the cakes. And she took a pan and poured them out before him, but he refused to eat. And Amnon said, have out all men from me, and they went out every man from him. So now Amnon, of course, he's kind of the firstborn in a way of David. So he's technically, because he is David's first son, he has the right to rule basically in the kingdom. And so he's got servants around him. And so he's like, all the servants leave. I need all the men out, basically. So verse 10, and Amnon said unto Tamar, bring the meat into the chamber, that I may eat of thine hand. And Tamar took the cakes which she had made and brought them into the chamber to Amnon her brother. And when she had brought them unto him to eat, he took hold of her and said unto her, come lie with me, my sister. And she answered him, nay, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing ought to be done in Israel. Do not thou this folly. Verse 13, and I, whither shall I cause my shame to go? And as for thee, thou shalt be as one of the fools in Israel. Now therefore I pray thee, speak unto the king, for he will not withhold me from thee. Howbeit he would not hearken unto her voice, but being stronger than she, forced her and lay with her. So he convinces all the guards, the servants, to leave. He's like, hey, bring the bread yourself in here tomorrow and feed it to me. Help me with this. So she comes in to feed it to him, to help him out, and he completely betrays her kindness. And he grabs her and holds on to her and says, come lie with me. Let's sleep together. Let's do this. And she's like, no, what are you talking about? No. This is not a good thing. And you have to realize from this situation, of course, as a woman, lying with a man makes her unclean in the law of Moses type idea that they had back then. And therefore she would be seen as secondhand in a way, and no man would want to be her husband. So that whole idea of damaged goods kind of a concept. And so this would be really bad for her as a woman, because she would be despised. All the other women would be like, oh, she's the floozy, whatever. And then she'd be kicked out, and it would destroy her life. So she knows this is not a good thing. Not a good thing at all. Not to mention, Amnon would be a sinner, and he would be kicked out, and he would be seen as a fool and an idiot, and it wouldn't work out well for him. So this is just all around a bad idea. She tries to explain this to him. And then she actually says, look, if you talk to Dad, because they're step siblings, the law says they are far enough apart that they can be married together. So she's like, look, if you want to hook up, we got to get married first, basically. So talk to your dad, and that can be arranged, basically. But don't go this route, basically. And in verse 14, it says that he did not listen to her, but forced her. So this is a problem. Big problem. He raped his sister, basically, and committed a sin in this effort. Verse 15, then Amnon hated her exceedingly, so that the hatred wherewith he hated her was greater than the love wherewith he had loved her. And Amnon said unto her, arise, be gone. So this is a common issue. This is not uncommon to have happen. Anybody who's dealt with any kind of sexual abuse or even physical abuse, we have to realize that they're not necessarily abusing you because it's you. They're abusing you because they are superimposing onto you, in their mind, their problem. They blame you for it. So now that Amnon has committed the sin, his hate for what he has done is deferred to her. He is pushing mentally, he is pushing all the hate, the repulsion of the spirit, those feelings inside of this is not a good thing, you've done something bad, that loss of spirit, the loss of the happiness and goodness inside, all of that he should feel, that helps him to understand, I did something bad, I did something wrong, I need to repent. He doesn't want to repent. And so he is imposing all of that onto her as the object, not only of his lust. Again, he didn't love her, he loved his feelings about her. And that's what got him to do this. And so now his hatred, that he should have some anger for himself for what he's done, he is imposing all that on her and is pushing the hate onto her so that he can be okay through the whole process. It's not his fault at all. This is so common, it's crazy how this works out. Even to today, this is so common of a narrative. I don't want anybody to post in the comments if you have been abused or gone through this, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who have some comments about this, some thoughts or ideas. Even a woman's perspective of what this means and what was going on with this would be interesting. So you can feel free to put those. Just don't, if you don't want to mention certain things or experiences you've had, please don't. That's okay. We want to respect your privacy as well. So this is the problem. And so verse 16, she says to him, there is no cause. This evil in sending me away is greater than other that thou didst unto me. But he would not hearken unto her. So he's like, get out of here. I don't want you around. So she's kind of like, well, great. We've now slept together. I guess I'm going to have to be one of your wives or concubines now. Basically, he just completely ruined her whole life and is now, in order to have any chance of her having some kind of a normal life, and I put quotes on that because it wasn't her choice to go through this, but for her to not be seen as sinful or a problem in the community and cast out, basically, they have to get married now. Otherwise, it will look like she is a sinful person too, and it'll destroy her. So she's like, we got to be together now. You forced me into this, so we got to get married now. We've got to be together. And he says, no, I'm not going to do that. No, you're out. Leave me alone. I don't want to see you anymore. So she realizes that this isn't just get out of my room. This is basically, I'm not getting married to you. And so this puts, again, that more emphasis on her realizing, if I have had an experience with a man, no other man will want me. Basically, I'm not a virgin anymore. So I have to marry him if I want to have any saving face for myself, which is terrible, just because of how they had their perceptions and ideas back then of how they perceived women and women's rights was so archaic, it was crazy. So in order for her to have any chance of having any opportunity to stay in the palace, to be royalty, to do things, they have to get married. And Amnon's like, no, I'm not marrying you. You're out. You're done. So not only did he choose to destroy her life in the moment, but now he's choosing to really ruin the rest of her life by not marrying her. And she's saying, this is even worse than what you just did to me. By kicking me out, this is going to be worse in my life than what you've just done, basically. Verse 17, then he called his servant that ministered unto him and said, put now this woman out from me and bolt the door after her. Verse 18, and she had a garment of diverse colors upon her, for with such robes were the king's daughters that were virgins apparelled. Then his servant brought her out and bolted the door after her. So there's a certain type of clothing that they had that the king's daughters would get. Basically, could it be similar to the coat of many colors that we hear from the days of Joseph of Egypt? Maybe, which is somewhat the robes of the priesthood or robes, temple garment type idea. Basically, could be. Verse 19, and Tamar put ashes on her head and rent her garment of diverse colors that was on her, and laid her hand on her head and went on crying. So she is putting the ashes on her head. She's going through this process of mourning and that sorrowness of what she's done, or what has happened, I should say. Verse 20, and Absalom, her brother, said unto her, hath Amnon thy brother been with thee? But hold now thy peace, my sister, he is thy brother, regard not this thing. So Tamar remained desolate in her brother Absalom's house. So she goes back to her brother's house to live, basically because she has nowhere else to go. No one is going to accept her. She either is completely homeless and destitute, or she goes and lives with her brother and hopes her brother is kind to her, and he takes her back in and basically says, look, I'll take care of this. Don't worry about it. You don't fret over it, sister. I'll take care of this. Verse 21. But when King David heard all these things, he was very wroth. So David realizes what's going on, and he's mad, really mad. And Absalom spake unto his brother Amnon, neither good nor bad, for Absalom hated Amnon because he had forced his sister Tamar. So this is the challenge that we have basically in here. So I got an interesting thought here that came from the Old Testament study manual. And they said, Amnon did not really love Tamar. Once he had gratified his lust, he despised her. How often is such gross unfairness toward women demonstrated by evil men? They exploit women and then despise the women rather than themselves. Amnon would not save Tamar from disgrace by making her a part of his household as a wife or concubine. Knowing that she had been disgraced and would therefore be deprived of a husband, Tamar mourned in the manner of a widow. David was furious because of the way Amnon had treated Tamar, but what could he do or say? His own conduct with Bath-sheba had left him without a basis for condemnation. Here was another result of sin. Because of his own guilt, David did not act to correct his great abomination in his own household. David learned the sad lesson that a man's sins can often visit him even to the third and fourth generation. So David hears about this and he's mad. He's really mad. Tamar is his daughter, and his daughter has been violated in one of the absolute most worst ways possible, short of killing her, basically, taking her actual life. And he's pissed. But what can he say? Any condemnation he brings against Amnon can easily be turned around and brought to him. How often do we as parents sometimes run into this trap where our kids do something and we hate what they have done, but we were guilty of that as a kid ourselves. And so we have to realize anytime we spend condemning our child and punishing them for what they've done reflects back on us too, because we were there and we've done that too. So sin has these unintended consequences that get us into these little troubled areas where we just say, the beauty is this is where truth makes such a difference, okay? Because the truth is that committing adultery is wrong, okay? Committing adultery is wrong. And so it is right for David to want to condemn Amnon and punish him for what he has done. However, he has committed the same sin, so he should suffer a similar punishment himself. So this is the beauty, is truth. While truth is something that's wonderful and nice and great, and we love to learn truth and live truth in our life, we have to realize that real truth, the truth that makes a difference, not only exists outside of us, it exists whether we exist or not. The truth, if truth has to live inside our head to exist, it's not real truth. Okay, that's what we call contextual truth, basically, is the phrase I use. But here's the thing, is truth exists outside of us. It is independent of our way of thinking. So multiple people can agree that is true. That's important, okay? Real truth also puts pressure on our life and our thinking and way of doing things because it is designed to force the faults out. It points out to us what is not right so that we can address the issue. So that's good. But the problem is again, David's guilty of the same thing. So any punishment he gives to Amnon, he kind of has to give to himself. Otherwise, it doesn't seem fair. That is truth trying to help correct this problem. So that's the challenge that David is running into, basically. And this is that trickle-down effect that happens with sin. So it's interesting to take even a look at our own lives. How have our decisions affected our family or our friends around us or coworkers or other people around us? It's a hard thing to look at. And sometimes our sins do impact the lives of multiple people, not just us. That's that great lie that Satan tells us is no one's going to know. It doesn't affect anybody else, but it does, and it can. So we just want to be careful with that. That sin always has unintended consequences to it that we're not thinking about. That if we had thought about, we probably wouldn't have done it in the first place because we realize those are bad consequences. So this is the challenge that David is facing now. So verse 23, and it came to pass after 2 full years that Absalom had sheep shears in Baal-hazor, which is beside Ephraim. And Absalom invited all the king's sons. So 2 years had passed, 2 full seasons gone around, basically. The year rights, everything, harvest, planting, all of that, seasons, everything is done for 2 whole years. Absalom shears is probably getting the fall, or not fall, but the season when they shear the sheep, basically, which is usually, if I remember right, some more summer, late summer, because the sheep get the wool built up, and then they get hot, and so you got to shear them off, basically, so they cool down, and then they grow the wool again for the winter, so it's more summertime. Probably. All the sheep shears are going up, and they usually do a big feast. This is not an uncommon thing. I mean, you got to realize, okay, they didn't have jobs like we have jobs today. Their whole job is I got to get up and I got to take care of all my animals because that is my wealth. That's how I feed my family. Is we grow grains, we have a garden, we have animals, we do trade with these things, the commodities that we grow and work with. And if I don't tend to it, it falls apart and I lose my wealth. So they didn't have jobs and money per se kind of thing. They had money. It was more of a real gold standard where the money itself actually had the value that it exchanged rather than a fiat currency like we have today. That can be a whole nother video too. So anyways, what happens is there's no TV, there's no entertainment. They don't have movie theaters. They don't have a lot of this entertainment we have today. No cell phones. You can't get on the phone and call somebody or watch videos on YouTube. So what do you do all day? You know what? They made a party out of their work. They've tended the sheep. It's time to shear them, get everybody together. We get a bunch of help. We're going to feed everybody while we're here and have a feast out of this job of shearing the sheep and taking care of the wool and getting all done. So Absalom decides, I'm going to invite all the king's sons, the whole extended family, to come up, and we're going to have a feast and do this work. Verse 24, and Absalom came to the king and said, behold, now thy servant hath sheep shears. Let the king, I beseech thee, and his servants go with thy servant. And the king said to Absalom, nay, my son, let us not all now go, lest we be chargeable unto thee. And he pressed him, howbeit he would not go, but blessed him. So Absalom goes to David and says, hey, I want you and your servants and all the family to come up to our place. We're going to do the sheep shearing. It's going to be fun. And we're going to have a big feast and have a good celebration out of it. And David's going, no, I'm not going to go. Basically, it's going to be an undue burden on your family to feed everybody and do all this stuff. So we're not going to go. We're not going to do it. But David blesses Absalom and what he's doing. And so David and his servants will stay, but the family can go, basically. Verse 26, then said Absalom, if not, I pray thee, let my brother Amnon go with us. And the king said unto him, why should he go with thee? Verse 27, but Absalom pressed him that he let Amnon and all the king's sons go with him. So he's like, okay, I understand, David, but you know what? It's going to be fine. Can all of my brothers at least come? Let's get all of the king's sons together to come. That's Amnon and everybody else. Let's bring them along. So he finally convinces them to let the sons come. Amnon is one of them, basically. Verse 28, now Absalom had commanded his servants, saying, mark ye now, when Amnon's heart is merry with wine, and when I say unto you, smite Amnon, then kill him, fear not. Have not I commanded you? Be courageous and be valiant. So Absalom is creating a trap for Amnon. They are moving in secret, making secret plans to commit murder, to basically get revenge or emotional gain at the expense of a life of somebody else. This is a secret combination if you remember that from the Book of Mormon. So this is what's going on. So they're laying a trap for Amnon. Absalom has not forgotten what he did to his sister, basically, what Amnon has done to his sister, basically. So verse 29, and the servants of Absalom did unto Amnon as Absalom had commanded. Then all the king's sons arose, and every man gat him up upon his mule and fled. Verse 30, and it came to pass while they were in the way that tidings came to David, saying, Absalom has slain all the king's sons, and there is not one of them left. So here's what happens, basically. They all get there, they're having their party, they're having their celebration, they're doing their thing, and everybody gets a little imbibed with the wine, the alcohols they had, basically. And Absalom gives a command, his servants come out, kill Amnon. All the other sons freak out, get on their asses, basically, their donkeys, their mules, and they get out of there. They're what the heck's going on? I don't want to be killed. I'm out of here. So they all flee, basically. Now, this word gets back to David that Absalom has killed all of his sons. So a little bit of an exaggeration going on in there, not quite correct information yet. Verse 31, then the king arose and tare his garments and lay on the earth, and all his servants stood by with their clothes rent. And Jonadab, the son of Shimeah, David's brother, answered and said, let not my lord suppose that they have slain all the young men, the king's sons. For Amnon only is dead, for by the appointment of Absalom, this hath been determined from the day that he forced his sister Tamar. Now therefore let not my lord the king take the thing to his heart to think that all the king's sons are dead, for Amnon only is dead. So Jonadab, remember, he's the backroom sneaky guy. He's like, you know what, I've done some checking in, some back channels. Amnon is the only one that died. The rest are still alive. They're just in hiding, most likely. They're fleeing. They're afraid that they're next. So this is where we're at. So he's trying to console David, going, I don't think the rest of your sons are dead. I think they're hiding, they're fleeing, but they're not dead. Amnon is dead. We have it confirmed that he's dead, but nobody else has been confirmed dead. So we can suppose that the rest are alive. Verse 34, but Absalom fled. And the young man that kept the watch lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there came much people by the way of the hillside beside him. So Absalom flees, the young man who's out watching. So his job is to be out there to protect the animals from other dangerous animals, as well as warn from enemies and things that are happening there. He's out taking watch, basically. He sees all these people. There's a mob coming, basically. Verse 35, and Jonadab said unto the king, behold, the king's sons come. As thy servant said, so it is. So they all show up basically back at the palace, and oh, look, it's your sons. They're back. Verse 36, and it came to pass as soon as he had made an end of speaking, that behold, the king's sons came, and lifted up their voice and wept, and the king also and all his servants wept very sore. But Absalom fled and went to Talmai, the son of Ammihud, king of Geshur, and David mourned for his son every day. So Absalom fled and went to Geshur, and was there 3 years. And the soul of King David longed to go forth unto Absalom, for he was comforted concerning Amnon, seeing he was dead. So David's got a problem. He has 2 sons. They don't like each other. One committed a very heinous sin against his sister, and the other one killed that brother. So while he's sad for the loss of his son, Amnon, he's kind of glad because now Amnon's out of the way, basically, and his sins will go away, and all that, the problems with that will start to go away, basically. But he's sad too because he's in effect lost his son Absalom, because Absalom's not coming back. Absalom has left the kingdom to save his own life, basically. So some crazy stuff going on in here. I'd love to hear your comments on what you think about these tells and challenges that are happening. And realize this is all secondary. The Spirit of God has left David and his house. And so more wickedness can come in, more temptation is there. And these are the side effects of sin that we're seeing and the problems that are happening here. So another good reason for us to make sure we are actively keeping the Spirit with us to help us so that we do not run into this kind of a trickle-down side effect problem as well, but can help out. So let's jump into the next chapter to see what happens next with Absalom and David.